Heavyweights on the outside looking in. Coming up this weekend, we have the Dominican Republic's Waldo Cortes-Acosta. It's Salsa Boy, and he picked up his first pro loss as a mixed martial artist his last time out to the now 15th ranked Marcos Rogerio de Lima. And in that fight, Cortes-Acosta came on strong in the third round, being advised so by his corner. So for the fighter of the DR, this weekend he's going to be taking on the much defeated Lukasz Brzeski. And I say much because for Brzeski, he fights Dylan Potter on Contender Series in 2021. He gets the win. It's overturned to a no contest. The Athletic Commission, USADA, he was a little bit juicy for them. But if you look at it for Brzeski, he comes in, he takes on Martin Budaj, and everybody and their dog scored it for Brzeski in that one. But Budaj ends up getting the win. It's a split decision. Brzeski goes for that sophomore showing, and we know him as a good striker who has bad takedown defense. And by gosh, by golly, did he ever have that in spades. Taken down 8 times by the wrestler Carl Williams. He also got dropped early in the second round of that one and had 0 success and looked completely gassed by about the start of the second round. So Brzeski looking as bad as you could. But if you go back and you watch his performances on the regional scene, you'll see that Brzeski in his own right has good boxing, has awesome leg kicks that open up his boxing, which in theory could cause problems for Cortes-Acosta. We saw that in the Jared Vanderaa fight. We didn't see it where Chase Sherman has good leg kicks, but he did not go to them. But Marcos Rogerio de Lima did put kind of water in that basement, to use the Teddy Atlas quote, round 2 and in round 1 as well. So for Cortes-Acosta, looking to kind of pick up the pieces. And Cortes-Acosta is really interesting in his own right because he started off his MMA career as an amateur 2015. In 2017, he started off his boxing career. But Cortes-Acosta's boxing career is a lot more like Darius Flowers and Charles Johnson, to where 6-4 is good. The losses are by finish. His last time out, he got finished by Sonny Conto really early on in that one. Conto's still an undefeated boxer who trains with Sean Brady and Joe Pyfer. But for Cortes-Acosta in MMA, we know where the detriments are. The takedown defense and the leg kicks. But again, he's got 9 wins and only 1 loss.
Brzeski just really confuses me, honestly, because even in some of his fights in the regional scene, he has good top pressure when he's able to get his opponent to the ground. He does a really good job with his half guard. He's a heavy fighter in that top position too, can go for good ground and pound, but again, it's not a position we really see him in enough because I do think it is one of his strengths. I'm not saying it's his biggest strength, but especially in a matchup like this, if he is able to get that top spot and really hold Cortes-Acosta down, it makes it much easier to deal with him. He is very dynamic on the feet, not only with his movement, he's got great hand speed to go along with it as well, but for Cortes-Acosta, you bring it up, the takedown defense has been such a big hole that if Brzeski is going to go for takedowns in any fight in the UFC, you would have to imagine this would be one of those matchups because again, I know he struggles a lot with that same area, but when he's able to have his own success offensively wrestling and grappling, it does make him look like a much more leveled up fighter because on the mat, he's going to have a big advantage. On the feet, he could just find himself at a bit of a speed disadvantage because for Cortes-Acosta, he's a big guy, right? Like he does not weigh in at the lower limit of 205, but he does move well, and I don't attribute that to his dancing. I'm sure it has a little bit to do, but for a big guy, he really does have a good level of footwork to go along with his boxing technique. So I'm really curious to see how this fight plays out because no one likes it when I say this. I think distance management is going to be the most important thing in this matchup. If Cortes-Acosta can keep that distance, throw enough volume, because that's what we will see. We'll kind of see him get into having great volume and then kind of get away from it at different points throughout the fight. I don't think he has poor cardio by any means. I just think he has to figure out where his Goldilocks zone is, where it's not too hot, not too cold. It is just right, because when he is able to find his rhythm, he's a difficult fighter to deal with at this weight class. You just wonder that, okay, are the holes in his game so glaring that he'll never really be able to break through into that top 15?
Well, and Cortes-Acosta had that opportunity to kind of take on a level up and maybe crack the rankings last time out. He loses to De Lima, who then goes on to fight Derek Lewis. So if you do look at it for Cortes-Acosta, Contender Series, he finishes Danilo Suzarchi, and then he comes into the UFC, beats Vanderaa, beats Chase Sherman. Vanderaa fight was pretty close. The fight against, Thomas Peterson, when he was over with the LFA, wins the heavyweight strap, but he loses the first 2 rounds because he gets out-grappled, but he comes on strong with his boxing. Brzeski, again, even in the draw that he has on his record, and Michał Kita, he struggles in some of the grappling, but when Brzeski's on, it's the kicks that open up his own boxing. but his boxing isn't the most technical of things to his game.
It's a little stiff.
It's stiff, it's odd angles, and he leaves himself open to get countered. And because of that, and because of how high up we perceive Cortes-Acosta to be in the unranked heavyweight divisional rankings that are, even if you look on Topology, it's 33 versus 82. Cortes-Acosta is almost 3-1 favorite. You look at the Topology votes, Matt, I'm going to say over under 82.5% Cortes-Acosta in this one.
I think they'll be over, but I never assumed he'd be that heavily favored by the fans.
They are over 774 total votes, 87% Cortes-Acosta, 77% by decision for the 13% that have Derevsky, 81% by decision. I thought Cortes-Acosta was going to be an awesome fighter coming into the UFC, and then he fought Jared Vanderaa, and my opinion of him completely changed. And now it's in a really weird spot. Who do you have in this matchup?
I still think he's going to be able to win this fight. If he can just stay, and it's weird to say, if he can stay on the back foot and avoid some of those bigger exchanges from Brzeski, I do think he is the more complete fighter on the feet, and I still favor his hand speed a whole heck of a lot more than Lukasz. So I do have Cortes-Acosta in this matchup, but that's the thing. You bring up where they rank on Tapology. Let's be honest. Anybody who's ranked 100 to like 20 could beat each other on their worst day or best day. Like, that's how close the heavyweight division really is outside of the top 15. So I don't really see any of these fights being massive upsets by any means, but I do select Cortes-Acosta.
Yeah, I mean, Derevsky's trained with Tomasz Narkun, the guys at Ankos MMA, and there's all kinds of good ones. Marcin Tybor has trained there for a really long time. Derevsky also trains with KSW fighter Szymon Bajor, and he's a really good fighter as well. But Derevsky isn't really that guy, and even his fight against Dylan Potter, did he really submit him on
You're not that
Series?
guy, pal. You're not that guy.
We'll never know. Mark Smith's the only one to know, and the record is as well. But when it comes down to this one, I will go with Waldo Cortes-Acosta, but I hate that chalk in this because he doesn't check leg kicks. He still doesn't. He hasn't learned how to do it. And that's Derevsky's biggest weapon, and he likes to go to it. And then the threat of the takedown, I don't think is necessarily there for either guy. So it should be a fun striking affair. And when you're looking at a guy being a 3-1 favorite in unranked heavyweights, you just turn away. You call it popcorn, and you live to see another day. Both of us going with the DR's own Waldo Cortes-Acosta, Salsa Boy, his way to a victory. Some big-time fights on this card, Matt, including Anthony Smith taking on Ryan Spann. I'm down to clown. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.